My first step was to reverse engineer my inspirations. These were the music videos for Migraine, Fairly Local, and Gold. By this point, I knew that I wanted to work with an actual band. Luckily, I was able to meet a guy who owned one, and I visited his studio and spoke to him, but found out his schedule was too tight to film a proper music video. However, he did give me a list of other artists that I could possibly use. I fine-tuned this list to my taste, but none of the artists I messaged got back to me. Just as I was about to give in and use a copyrighted song, my brother put me in contact with a band that I loved immediately. They even offered for me to go film them live in Torquay, and I took them up on this, whilst also planning how I could intercut an actual music video with the band playing live for the final edit. After this, I planned a rough storyboard of camera angles, movements and shots, which I then sent to Jess and James, who had agreed to help with the filming. I then booked out the necessary equipment, which mainly consisted of lenses that could handle the low light of a dim venue. This left me with paperwork as my next task to tackle. Specifically, actor and music release forms for the band to sign, and location release forms for the manager of the venue to sign. Lastly, I set a meeting time for Jess, James and me, so we could have ample time to set up and prepare.
So, you ready to just go when?
Yeah, mate.
Stop recording?
Yeah.
With my idea finalised and my storyboard mostly done by this point, I jumped straight into doing some tests in the Cove studio so I could see how the projector would interact with the camera and lights. I was pretty satisfied, so I built out the studio and equipment to film on the 9th and 11th of April, recruited the help of Kerry, Stephen and James, and arranged the CRT TV ready for those dates. The hardest part of this was aligning the schedules of the studio, equipment, crew and actors, which was made even harder by one of my original actors pulling out. I managed to resolve this through a few Facebook posts and Neil's help, but it wasn't a great omen. However, all I was left with now was to sort out paperwork and invest in a SCART to HDMI adapter, something I naively didn't test beforehand when it arrived. Directing actors made me very nervous, but I was ambitious. I definitely thought I could film the whole music video in one day. This ambition was crushed when I found out the CRT adapter wasn't working. We cracked on with filming the scenes we could, but I was feeling the pressure which affected my directing. This pressure told as, by the time I was editing the footage the next day, I realised, realistically, I didn't have enough for the projected scenes I wanted, and I'd have to utilise them in another way. Fortunately, we wouldn't have had time to film the CRT scenes anyway, and I still had the studio and equipment booked out for the 11th. Even better, I fixed the problem with the adapter following the day's filming. Although my original vision had changed slightly, I was ready to go again on the 11th. Day 2 was all about getting it right, and we did. I had a much clearer idea of what I wanted. The lighting was perfect, the acting was great, the shots were nailed, and everything flowed. There are still a number of key takeaways though. A more in-depth storyboard was needed. I was overly ambitious with how long filming would take, and I didn't spend enough time conducting tests. But I did take risks. I basically filmed 2 music videos. There was good organisation and planning on the most part, and I gained experience as a first-time director. I'm happy with the finished product, and I hope you enjoyed it too.
See what I mean? I couldn't find the TV, but this looks really nice. Look at that shot.
That is really cool. Up close hand.
Like that.
Yeah, wow. That's really good.
Yeah.
And actually...